1957. A bedroom vanity in a Chicago suburb, late Saturday night. The room is quiet, lit only by the warm golden glow of a small desk lamp. A woman sits in front of the mirror, her fingers rhythmically twisting damp sections of hair. There is a distinct, powdery scent of setting lotion in the air, mixed with the sharp, cold click of metal. Pin curl clips snapping shut against her scalp. Her young daughter watches from the doorway, memorizing the silent choreography of her hands. But the strange part is this. Nothing on that vanity required a plug, yet the results were engineered to outlast a storm. There was no extreme heat burning the hair, no buzzing motors, and nothing on that table cost more than a few dimes. Today we spend fortunes on burning irons, chasing a perfection they achieved with patience and cold metal. These are 15 vanished hairstyling techniques from 1957 that still look gorgeous today. Now, before we dive in, tap that subscribe button. You will not want to miss what is coming next. We look back at these 1950s hairstyling secrets and realize they did not vanish because they stopped working. They vanished because the beauty industry needed to sell us something faster, hotter, and far more expensive. The deeper you look, the less old-fashioned these habits seem. They were not just beauty routines, they were careful acts of preservation. What disappeared was not the result. It was the quiet household intelligence around it. We are counting down 15 of these forgotten techniques. You will want to stay until number 1, because it reveals a nightly ritual that was less about styling hair and more about a woman reclaiming her own time. The countdown starts with the coldest, most enduring tool on the vanity, laying the foundation for everything else. Number 15, the cold pin curl foundation. Before curling irons reached 400 degrees and baked our hair into submission, women relied on a much colder, slower geometry. The foundation of almost every iconic 1950s hairstyle was the pin curl. After washing, damp hair was sectioned, rolled tightly into flat circles against the scalp, and secured with a single, cold metal prong clip. You could buy a tin of them at the drugstore for pennies. The feeling was distinct. The slight pull of the hair, the chill of the metal, and the dampness air drying over hours. It required zero electricity and caused zero heat damage. Today we burn our hair daily and buy expensive repair masks to fix it. Back then, they simply let time do the work of heat. Number 14, setting lotion from scratch. But a pin curl alone was not enough to defy gravity. Women relied on setting lotions, often poured from heavy glass bottles with brands like Dippity-Doo or even simple homemade concoctions. The liquid had a distinct powdery floral scent and a slight tackiness on the fingertips. You would comb it through the damp hair before rolling. When it dried, it locked the hair follicle into its new shape with an iron grip. Unlike modern aerosol hairsprays that coat the hair in drying alcohol, these lotions were water-soluble and brushed out into soft, touchable waves. The industry convinced us to trade this gentle hold for instant, crunchy aerosols. Number 13, the 100 brush strokes ritual. To keep those waves soft and the hair gleaming, women practiced a nightly ritual that seems almost mythical now, the 100 brush strokes. Sitting at the vanity, they used a natural boar bristle brush, rhythmically pulling it from the scalp down to the ends. It was not just a myth, it was mechanical conditioning. The stiff bristles picked up the natural oils from the scalp and distributed them down the hair shaft, acting as a natural serum. The rhythmic swish of the brush through the hair was a quiet meditation. We replaced this free, built-in hydration with expensive bottles of synthetic shine serums, forgetting that our bodies already knew how to care for themselves. And this is where the pattern starts to show. These were not just beauty tricks to look pretty, they were systems of self-reliance. A woman with a tin of clips and a good brush did not need to plug anything into a wall to look put together. She owned her routine. Number 12, sleeping in invisible hairnets. Once a style was set, a woman protected her investment. She did not just go to sleep and hope for the best. She carefully wrapped her hair in a fine, nearly invisible nylon hairnet, sometimes tying a silk scarf over it. The netting felt weightless, gently holding the curls flat against the head so tossing and turning would not ruin the shape. It was an act of preserving her own labor. Today we wake up with bedhead and start from scratch every single morning. The 1950s woman woke up, removed the net, and was ready for the day in minutes. Number 11. Rag curls for gentle waves. For a softer wave, especially for young girls, women turn to the scrap basket. Rag curls involve taking leftover strips of cotton fabric, perhaps from a dress hemmed earlier that week, and rolling sections of damp hair around them, tying them off in a knot. Sleeping on soft cotton strips was far more comfortable than metal rollers, and it cost absolutely nothing. It was pure resourcefulness, turning sewing remnants into a beauty tool. The result was a head of bouncy, undamaged curls. But the next group of tricks moved from the foundation into the geometry of styling, where the rules became even more precise. Number 10. The geometric precision of parting. Before the messy bun became an acceptable daily standard, a woman's parting was an act of deliberate geometry. Using the sharp, pointed end of a rat-tail comb, she would draw a severe, perfectly straight line across her scalp. A deep side part was not just a styling choice, it was an instant architecture for the face. It created immediate elegance, lifting the cheekbones without a single drop of makeup. The sharp drag of the comb's tail against the scalp was the feeling of putting the day in order. Number 9. Teasing with intention volume in the 1950s did not come from a pressurized can of dry shampoo or texturizing spray. It was built from the inside out. Back combing, or teasing, required a fine-tooth comb and a specific flick of the wrist. There was a soft, almost paper-like rustling sound as the hair was gently pushed backward toward the root. This created a dense cushion at the base, allowing the top layer of hair to drape smoothly over it like silk over a frame. It was structural engineering, giving the hair a memory that could last for days. Number 8. The weekly wash schedule. Perhaps the biggest shock to modern sensibilities is this. Women in 1957 generally washed their hair only once a week. Washing and setting was a dedicated event, usually reserved for a Friday or Saturday night. For the rest of the week, the hair was kept dry under a thick vinyl shower cap. The modern beauty industry trained us to strip our hair of its natural oils every morning, only to sell us expensive bottles of synthetic moisture to replace what we washed down the drain. The 1950s woman simply let her scalp's natural ecosystem thrive. By this point, the pattern is no longer about products, it is about standards. These women did not view their hair as a daily frustration to be fought with hot irons every morning. They treated it as a delicate fabric that required maintenance, strategy, and respect. Number 7. Smooth pomade for flyaways. To maintain that pristine look on day 3 or 4, a woman did not douse her head in sticky sprays. She reached for a tiny tin of smooth pomade. Taking just a fingerprint's worth, she would warm the wax between her palms until it melted into a sheer glaze, then lightly smoothed down the halo of baby hairs. It left no crunch and no flakes. It was a microscopic adjustment that kept her looking effortlessly polished, utilizing a product that lasted for years. Number 6. Silk scarves as environmental armor. When a 1950s woman finally stepped outside, she did not let the wind ruin hours of patient work. The silk scarf was her environmental armor. Folded into a perfect triangle and tied securely under the chin, it protected the set from humidity, exhaust fumes, and unpredictable breezes. Riding in a car with the windows down was not a hazard. It was an opportunity for glamour. The scarf was removed only when she reached her destination, revealing an untouched masterpiece. But the next few rules were different. They were not just about solving problems or fighting the weather. They were about how a woman carried herself through the world, demanding a specific kind of posture. Number 5. The sculpted French twist. When a woman needed an upscale look, or simply needed to completely conceal hair that was on its 6th day since washing, she turned to the French twist. This technique required no modern elastic bands or plastic claws. Instead, the hair was swept entirely to one side, smoothly rolled tightly against the back of the head, and secured with long, flexible U-shaped hairpins. The feeling was one of immediate lift. It pulled the weight of the hair away from the neck, forcing a sharper, prouder posture. It beautifully hid split ends and imperfections inside a clean, vertical seam. Today, we throw our hair into messy, disposable clips. The 1950s woman used a handful of wire pins to construct a silhouette that belonged in a Hollywood portrait. It was practical necessity disguised as high dignity. Number 4. Strategic bobby pin placement. The humble bobby pin was a staple of every vanity, but women in 1957 used them with a specific, forgotten rule. The wavy side goes down. Modern logic often assumes the ridges are for decoration, but they were engineered to grip the hair securely against the scalp. Women bought cards of Gala Hold Bob or Goldilocks pins for a nickel, knowing how to open them slightly with their teeth and slide them invisibly into a curl. When placed correctly, the metal pin vanished into the style, locking the architecture from within. It was a tiny piece of hidden mastery that required no visual credit. The closer we get to number 1, the less this is about objects and the more it is about identity. These were not just habits. They were quiet standards, repeated until they became character. A mid-century woman did not look elegant by accident. She chose it through daily precision. Number 3. Rollers over the forehead for volume. To achieve the iconic mid-century swoop that framed the face so beautifully, women didn't use electric blow dryers or round brushes. They relied on a single oversized mesh roller, placed strategically directly over the forehead. Damp bangs and front sections were combed forward, wrapped over the giant barrel, and pinned tight. As it dried, it lifted the roots at a dramatic angle. When brushed out, it created a soft, cascading wave that caught the morning light right above the cheekbone. It gave an effortless structure to the face, a technique that required careful layout planning before the hair even dried. Number 2. The final spray seal. To lock in days of careful preservation, a woman reached for the finishing touch, an early aerosol hairspray like the newly popular Aquanet. It didn't require a heavy drenching. Instead, she stepped into a fine mist, letting the sweet chemical and rose-scented clouds settle like lacquer over her head. The sound was a sharp hiss, followed by a momentary coolness on the skin. It provided a protective shield that kept the sculpted geometry intact through wind, rain, and the humidity of a busy kitchen. It was the final lock on a week's worth of elegance, but as the lacquer dried, it marked the end of the physical work, leading into the single most important element of the 1950s hair routine. A practice that wasn't about the products at all, but about something far deeper. Number 1. The quiet hours of the wet set. And now we reach the one that explains all the others. The final technique was never just about the object or the chemistry of a lotion. It was about what happened around it. The wet set was the ultimate mid-century ritual of sitting beneath the rollers while the hair dried naturally over hours. Picture a quiet bedroom in 1957. Outside, the suburban street is settling into darkness, but inside, the warm light of the vanity mirror reflects a mother gently winding a final section of hair around a roller. Her daughter stands close, breathing in the scent of powder and clean cotton, watching her mother's hands move with absolute certainty. This was not a chore to be rushed. It was an appointment with oneself. It was not vanity, it was armor. In an era before instant gratification, women carved out these stillness-filled hours once a week to construct their dignity. They didn't have heated flat irons to fix mistakes in 30 seconds. They had to plan their beauty with strategy, discipline, and immense patience. The object was small. The lesson was not. It was an inheritance passed from mother to daughter without ever being written down. A silent understanding that looking put together was a form of self-respect. When the modern world sold us 20-minute blowout brushes, they promised us time. But what they actually did was turn a beautiful weekly ritual into a chaotic daily burden. The wet set faded into history not because it failed, but because it required the one luxury the modern consumer market could never allow us to keep: the patience to wait for something beautiful to dry. And as those quiet hours of the weekend finally came to a close, and the pins were tucked away into their tin, the true meaning of this mid-century elegance became clear. These 15 vanished hairstyling techniques from 1957 did not disappear because they failed to make women look beautiful. They faded because the modern world traded preservation for speed and elegance for convenience. What truly vanished from the mid-century vanity was not the lacquer or the metal pins. It was the patience, the focus, and the shared domestic intelligence passed down through generations. But trends are disposable. Memory is not. Somewhere, a grandmother is still opening a satin-lined drawer, holding a small tin of gala pins that still work perfectly after 70 years. Somewhere, a kitchen light is still glowing early on a Sunday morning, illuminating a woman brushing out soft, heat-free waves that will comfortably outlast any modern salon blow-dry. If you remember watching your mother or grandmother wrap her hair in a net before bed, or if you still use some of these timeless tricks yourself, tell us your story in the comments below. Let us know which forgotten ritual you miss the most. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who loves the golden era, and subscribe for more journeys into old America. Until next time, keep the memories alive.